I watch a lot of movies. In fact, just right here off of the camera is my movie collection. They're always present, looming over me. I have hundreds of movies right there that say, "Watch us. Don't make videos. Don't write blogs. Don't make role playing game stuff. Watch movies." And every day is a battle between me and this monolith of cinema. And, and some days I win, and I work and I get my stuff done. And then some days it consumes me, and I have to go chill out and watch a bunch of movies. It's January 31st, 2025 as I'm recording this, which means that I only have so many hours left before I can make a list about 2024. I feel like there should be a grace period from when you're reflecting on the previous year. And I think I've reached about the limits of that. So today is my top 10 list. I haven't done a top 10 list on my YouTube channel before. Today is my top 10 list of the movies that I discovered in 2024. A lot of these movies are from the past. I think maybe only one of them is actually even from 2024, which is not an indictment on 2024 in terms of a year of cinema, so much as it is proof that I just don't watch enough movies in the year that they come out. I spend a lot of time watching movies from the past, and that it could be the recent past, like, I don't know, 2023 or 2021. But in a lot of cases, it's movies from a lot of different decades. We'll find out. Anyways, here is my 10 list of movies that I discovered just last year. Number 10, we're talking about White Lightning. There was a period last year where I was really getting into like Burt Reynolds movies. I watched this movie called Stick, which is from the early 80s. It's a movie based on, I think, an Elmore Leonard novel. That movie's pretty good, but I decided in terms of list representation, that White Lightning was a more interesting movie, was a movie more worth people's times, primarily because it's early Burt Reynolds. And I think early Burt Reynolds is a little looser, a little bit more vulnerable. Later Burt Reynolds is fine, but it's like the more famous he was becoming, the more successful he was becoming, I always felt like the persona started to become more manicured, more specific and more rigid. And in the early days, he was a little bit more playful. This movie is about Burt Reynolds playing a character named Gator McCluskey, whose brother is murdered terribly at the beginning of this film. His brother is murdered by a corrupt sheriff, and Burt Reynolds, Gator, it's Burt Reynolds, dude. Burt Reynolds basically makes a deal with the Treasury Department to investigate, to be a mole in whatever corrupt schemes are going on in that small town. But, until the point where he can exact his revenge. There's a lot of cool car chases. It's like Arkansas, sweaty and gritty. It's one of the sweatiest movies you'll probably ever watch. That like Southern paranoia thing is going on where he gets out of prison and his parents even give him the cold shoulder because they're afraid he's a snitch. Like that's the worst. There's also these long glances at the youth movement and how the South is adjusting to the post 1968 youth movement. So there's a lot of really cool ideas percolating around in the surface, but the center of the movie is Burt Reynolds trying to get to a point where he can get revenge for his brother. It's a cool movie, and I really, really enjoyed it. All right, number 9 is a movie called Late Autumn. I got it. It was in this set, this Eclipse set. It's a DVD set, so no Blu-rays. I don't think there's any Blu-rays of this, but this was a Criterion imprint where they just were grouping together chunks of great directors' filmography that they didn't think could exist as a singular release. They would just group a whole bunch of them together and put them out in these fun little themed sets. So this one is late period Ozu. Late Ozu. You can get other stuff like early silent Ozu. I think there's 2 sets of Silent Ozu. You can get early Kurosawa movies. Anyways, the point is that this is late autumn, and I had watched it, I think, right after I had just seen The End of Summer, which is also in this set. Both of them are really, really good movies. If you're not familiar with Yasujiro Ozu, then you really should rectify that, because he's a tremendous director. Anyways, Late Autumn, as well as The End of Summer, both feature Hara Setsuko and Tsukasa Yoko, 2 really great actresses that he used, I think, a few times in his movies, several times in his films. And they play a mother-daughter. Their relationship, their chemistry is so great. That's the reason why I popped this one on, because I really like them in The End of Summer. They are just as good in Late Autumn. The trick with Ozu films is that his names all sound so familiar and you get confused as to which one's which. But Late Autumn is about this mother and daughter relationship. Their father, the patriarch of the family, has been dead for several years, and his old college buddies have gotten together, and they've decided that they want to try and match make the daughter, like get her married off, because she's starting to get a little older. But the daughter's like, nah, I don't want to do that. I just want to hang out with my mom, because if I leave and I get married, then my mom will be alone. But she's also 24. She's also becoming her own person, so there's some things happening in her life that are calling to her, and she's having to like stave them off, right? Because she feels it's her duty to stay with her mother. And the relationship between the mother and daughter here is so good. And it is so heartfelt. In some ways, it's a little tragic, but the movie's never really, it's not a downer of a film, because the meddling of the college buddies is so stupid and ridiculous. And you realize, like, they have a crush on the mom. And like, what is their ultimate goal here, really? And you find yourself like just yelling at them to mind their own business. But ultimately, the movie is just this beautiful examination of a mother and daughter. I think that if you're into Jane Austen stories, you would really like this film. I think a lot, like quite a bit of Ozu feels Austen adjacent, just from a Japanese perspective. So if you're into Jane Austen movies or books, then you would be, I think maybe this would be a pretty good spot to try and get into some Ozu. There's a lot of similarities, I think, if you've read Austen's work or enjoyed Pride and Prejudice, like I have, because my wife made me watch it. It was good, Gail. Number 8 was a movie we watched on Shudder called When Evil Lurks. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, this was a movie that Joe Bob Briggs screened on his show, and it is freaking crazy. I think this is the newest movie on the list. It's just a wild as hell movie. This is if Evil Dead was terrorizing the Argentinian countryside. It's just madness. It's unrelenting, wild set pieces. It's all from Jump Street. I would say it even has, if you like Evil Dead, I would say this movie even has better world building, because it has weird details that are specific to this alternate version of our society. Let me explain it. That moment in John Wick where they kind of just show you that there is a hotel for assassins, and they have a coin system, and there's all these rules in place, and they sort of explain it, but it's just kind of like, oh, this is the world we live in now. It's not necessarily just a Keanu Reeves with guns and stuff fighting bad guys. There's also an assassin hotel, right? This movie kind of has that, except with proper demonic disposal protocols. It's cool. It is a cool as hell movie. It is rough and fun, and there's so many OMG moments in this movie. watch the movie. I think it's still on Shudder. Hit it up, find it, search for it, look for it. Number 7 was a date night pick. It was part of a double feature that I did for Gail. It is Vice Squad, starring Wings Hauser. Wings Hauser plays a pimp who in the movie kind of follows him on this night of destruction where he is just like trying to get revenge on Season Hubley, this prostitute who tried to take him down, she like joined up with the police to try and take him down, and they like screwed it up and he's out on the street and he's looking for her, and she's still like going to John's and stuff throughout the night. It's such a strange movie. But Wings Hauser plays this dude named Ramrod as the pimp's name, and Ramrod, why? But he's this unstoppable force. I think it's one of the greatest villains ever. He's unstoppable in the way that like Anton Chigurh is in No Country for Old Men, except I think he's scarier because Anton in No Country for Old Men has like rules. There's like a code. It's a dumb code, but he has a code that he goes by. Ramrod is like chaos. It is a hurricane of bad intentions, and it is going through seedy Los Angeles, which is I think might be underrepresented a little bit in film, the like seedy LA. There's a lot of like fun LA movies, but especially in the 70s and 80s, we mostly got like a lot of gritty, gnarly New York movies. LA had its own grime too, and this movie has quite a bit of that. Also, keep an eye out for Beverly Todd in a supporting role. I don't really know a whole lot about her, but I just thought she plays a LAPD cop who's also looking for she's a part of the crew. She's not one of the main characters. She's just kind of one of the other officers that are trying to find Ramrod's location in the city. And Gail and I both thought she was such a cool character. Beverly Todd gives a really great performance. So keep an eye out for that. That's Vice Squad. Check that movie out. Make sure you do it on a date night because that's when to watch a movie about a pimp trying to kill prostitutes. Don't judge me, man. All right, number 6 is Outlaw Gangster VIP, which I got from this Arrow Blu-ray set. In my movie collection, Japanese film is something that I focus on a lot of the time. It doesn't make up the bulk of my collection. A lot of that's like American English-speaking films, but Japanese would be like second place for cultural reasons. Outlaw Gangster VIP is a Yakuza film series, which I have quite a few Yakuza films, but this one is made by Masada Toshio and stars Watari Tetsuya. And Watari Tetsuya is in one of my all-time favorite films, Tokyo Drifter. If you haven't seen that, check it out. That's on Criterion Collection. This movie is really cool. I'm really into 1960s Japanese cinematography. I think the color palette in Japanese films, when they switch to color, they're so exciting and vibrant. Or they're either exciting and vibrant, or they're this weird muted quality that I find really appealing. I just love the cinematography of it. Watari Tetsuya's character has just gotten out of prison, and he realizes that the gang that he took the rap for is no longer in power. They're weak, and the rival gang that he despises is now in charge. And it's him trying to adjust to that and the concept of like honor. And I think these are based off of true stories. But, you know, there was like a lot of Yakuza films that seemed to say they were based on the real stuff. And I don't know how much of that is marketing. I would assume like a fair bit of it's marketing. So take that with a grain of salt. I really love how they shoot outdoors in this movie because it feels almost labyrinthine sometimes. Because Japan is kind of getting reconstructed, and there's scaffolding, and it's interesting. It's a visually interesting Yakuza film. It's one of the better ones that I've seen. It's really good. Number 5 is French Kiss, starring Meg Ryan and Kevin Kline. My wife and her sisters quote this movie, and I don't get it. I never got it. I just know they were quoting a movie, and they would laugh at each other quoting lines from this movie. And I wanted to see it. Apparently, you can't stream French Kiss. Like, look for it right now to stream from like a reputable server, not like a bootleg weird copy that's on YouTube. But like, find a streamer that has French Kiss on it. You can't. And so I had to get a Blu-ray of this movie that I was like sure I was gonna watch one time and be like, yeah, cool. Now I get this reference that my wife and her sisters make. But then we watched the movie, and my eyes were opened. I never really got Meg Ryan before, but Meg Ryan in this movie this has to be the height of her powers. She is such an interesting character because she's funny, she's self-deprecating, but she's assertive. And it's this weird mix of confusion and empowerment. It's awesome. It's kind of awesome to watch her. I just really loved watching Meg Ryan in this movie. Meg Ryan's character finds out that her fiance has gone to a trip to France. Meg Ryan's character is afraid of flying, so she doesn't go with him. And while he's over there, he finds some hot French lady and decides like he's in love with her now because he's an idiot, because you got Meg Ryan at home. What are you doing? And Meg Ryan overcomes sort of her fear of flying. She gets on this plane to France and happens to be sitting next to Kevin Kline, who has this insane French accent. He's a thief. And through some comedy of errors, their lives become entangled while she's searching Paris for her fiance, trying to win him back. It's a romantic comedy. You know what's happening. You know what's going to happen. But I have to say, Kevin Kline is stupid charming as always. I don't know if he knows how to turn it off. I don't think he does. He's one of the most charming human beings on film. Meg Ryan feels like every woman and no woman all at the same time. It is better than you think it's going to be. This movie really made me appreciate Meg Ryan films more so than I like this Meg Ryan movie better than the Tom Hanks ones that she did. I think this is better than that. It's really good movie. My fourth discovery of 2024 is Weathering with You, an anime feature by Shinkai Makoto. He directed Your Name and more recently Suzume. These three pictures together create an incredible 3-film run that is just as impressive as, say, Jordan Peele doing Get Out, Us, and Nope. Like, it's as good as that, I think. Weathering with You focuses on a character named Hodaka who runs away from home to Tokyo. He's homeless on the Tokyo streets, and he befriends a girl named Hina. Hina has a secret. She can control the weather. Tokyo is in the middle of a almost supernatural rainy season. It's raining all the time. And Hina has the capacity to control the weather and stop it from raining for just a few moments. And they create a business where they go to people who need sunshine for a moment, and she provides that for them for a fee. That's part of the film. Eventually, she starts to become quite famous as a girl who can control the weather. And because people are like, you got to get this girl. If you need a sunny day so you can play with your kids out at the park, this is the girl that you call to make the sun come out so you can have a good day at the park. Or if you need some sunshine for your garden, this is the girl. This is the girl you call. And eventually she becomes kind of famous for being able to make the sun come out. And that's when they're like, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. This is getting kind of heavy, Doc. You think you know where it's going, but it goes so much further than that. It's such a fascinating story. Shinkai Makoto and his team have such a way of creating interesting urban landscapes and urban spaces in the same way that people talk about Ghibli films and how outdoor spaces and the whimsy of the outdoor spaces and Ghibli films are. I think This is like the urban that. I think the ending is crazy. They just make crazy stories. My kids love this. I love this. Gail loved this. My family loved this, and I think yours might too. It's such a cool story. Number 3 is Secrets and Lies. This was one of the last discoveries I made of 2024. Is one of the last movies I watched. I used to watch the Oscars every year when I was a kid. I thought it was this important show to help me expand my cinematic awareness. My parents didn't really give a crap about it. So I don't know where this came from, why this impulse was that I was like, this is important. It's about movies. But Secrets and Lies was one of those movies from the 90s that had some Oscar cred going for it. It was one of those flicks that you just watch, you watch the Oscars and you go, oh, what is this? I haven't heard of this, right? That's not Jurassic Park. And you see the clips and you go, oh, that looks like a really important drama. I'll probably never watch it. And I didn't for years and years, for decades, apparently. And I did in 2024, and I regretted not having seen it before, but maybe it was a good thing. I saw it as a older, wiser adult. I think the clips they use in the Oscars don't necessarily do it justice, because it's always the most dramatic bits, like, oh my God, that girl's crying. Oh my God, they're having a fight. But it's a funny movie. It's actually a funny film. And Brenda Blethyn's part in this, she's so wound tight as this single mother who is constantly afraid of what other people think of her, and just this like level of shame and anxiety that is honestly, at a certain point, it's laughable how intense it is. And I think that's on purpose. She plays this lady who finds out that her daughter that she gave up for adoption, her first daughter that she had when she was an underage girl, that daughter has come to find her. And apparently she's also black, which she didn't know because she didn't look at the baby when she gave it up for adoption. She just said, like, take it away. So Hortense, who plays her long lost daughter, and she's played by Marianne Jean-Baptiste, is incredible. And she goes to find her mother, and they have these conversations that are so awkward. But they play these wonderful people who have lost something and are kind of looking for something in each other and not really sure if they're going to get it. But it's like, why not? Why can't I get it from you? Why can't I fill this part of me with you? Even though we haven't had a relationship, it's really about the human connection of it all. The racial aspect of the white mother and the black daughter is really kind of only focused on in the initial meeting where they can't believe that the other one is a different race. But once they get past that, we get down to a different aspect of human interaction where we realize there's a lot of shame and fear of what other people think. And it's not just about race, though that does still, loom over interactions when people are like, that's your daughter. Going back to Marianne Jean-Baptiste, she gives an incredible performance as Hortense. I think she just has like the most interesting face to watch. And so much of the first half of the film, she doesn't really even talk. She doesn't say a lot of lines. It's just her processing information and feeling and just exploring what she thinks. And this actress has such a wonderful face for the camera to look at and observe. I think it's a great performance. And coincidentally, I didn't realize that her and Mike Lee, who directed this movie, I didn't realize that they were collaborating for another film that just came out called Hard Truths, but I'm going to have to check that out pronto. Secrets and Lies, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Great, great movie. I just realized now that we're at number 2 that I don't know why we're counting down the movies. It's just 10 movies. I could have just counted it 1 to 10 and it would have been the same list. It doesn't really matter. But my number 2 movie is Albert Brooks's Modern Romance. I was not an Albert Brooks fan, not because I watched his movies and was just like, not for me. It's because I didn't watch his movies and I just assumed his comedy was like for old people. Like when I was a kid and he was a big deal, I was like, oh, that's like adult comedy, but not like adult like Andrew Dice Clay, adult like he's talking about adult things and not Little Miss Moffat. Hey, I think a couple years ago, Gail for a date night had us watch a movie called Defending Your Life with Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. And I thought he was funny in that. And I thought his observations about life were funny. And I guess I was the right age. I'm old now. And so I think I was the right age to watch Albert Brooks movies. And I had heard on a podcast people talking about Modern Romance being one of their favorite movies, movies that they recommend to their friends a lot of the time. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to watch it. And Sunday morning, I turned it on, and he is so cringe in this movie. It's fantastic. He's one of the cringiest humans alive. So uncomfortably awkward. And it's about him and his relationship with this lady whose name I can't remember. So it shows you how much I really paid attention. There's a scene in this movie that I feel is like an all-time classic comedy bit where he breaks up with his girlfriend and is deciding he's going to like start training to run, like he's going to get in shape. And he goes to a sporting goods store and ends up getting into this conversation with Super Dave Osborne, and who's not playing Super Dave. He's just playing a salesman at this sporting goods store. And this guy's just selling him up on all this junk that he doesn't need. It's a fantastic comedy bit that I showed my son, who's a cross-country runner. I showed him that and we laughed about it. Then I showed it to my wife. I was just showing them without context. I was just like, just watch this scene. It's awesome. My son did walk in during the end of this film when Albert Brooks and his girlfriend are fighting. And he just said, my son said, "These people are terrible. Why are they together?" And I said, "That's the movie. You get it. Wise beyond your years, son." Anyways, that's number 2, Modern Romance. Highly recommended. Still holds up today. It's a very funny movie. Have you ever watched a movie that made you regret that you didn't discover it earlier in your life? Night of the Creeps, which is my number 1 2024 discovery, made me feel that the whole movie. Night of the Creeps is made by Fred Decker, the guy who did Monster Squad. The whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm imagining an alternate timeline where I'm 9 years old and I discover this movie on Saturday afternoon TV, the same way I discovered Big Trouble in Little China or Monster Squad, like I mentioned earlier, or Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like I imagine that's how I would have discovered this movie. And I just imagine that I could quote all of Tom Atkins' lines from this movie. And whenever I worked at a video store years later, people would come in and go, "Man, I don't know what I need to watch." And I could go, "Have you ever seen Night of the Creeps?" And they'd be like, "What's that?" And I'd be like, "Shut up. Rent this movie. Also, you have $38 in late fees. What are you doing? Like, return the movie on time. You get 5 days. You just get it back here. It's on the way. Drop it off. We have a box." Late fees. I think of this alternate reality in which I was that 9-year-old child who discovered this film and had a decades-long relationship with it. And I realized that I'm not that person. I am in fact less than. The void cannot be filled. The gap cannot be overcome. And that this is the effect that watching Night of the Creeps has had on me. It was the best thing that I watched all year in 2024. And I'm now going to watch it every year for the rest of my life in a vainful attempt to try and become the person that I wish I was. That's what I thought of when I watched this movie. And you may watch it and think it's kind of okay. And I don't want to hear about it. I don't care. I'm happy for you that it didn't have that effect. I wish it didn't have that effect on me. But I will not hear any slander against this film. It's awesome. It is awesome. Tom Atkins plays this hard-boiled cop, and there's a college campus, and it's being invaded by alien zombies, and it's freaking fun, okay? Love movies. Love yourself. That's my top 10. All right, that's the video. That's my top 10 movies that I discovered in 2024. It's a fun list. There's romantic comedies. There's regular comedies, there's horror films, Japanese cinema, and anime thrown in for good measure, and hell, Burt Reynolds. Can't go wrong with that list. If there was a movie that you discovered in 2024 and you really want me to know about it, tell me about it. Hit me up. I'd love to hear about it. If only there was a place where you could make a comment. If you want to read more of my thoughts on the movies that I watched throughout the year, you can go to my Letterboxd page. I'll have that linked in the deep down below. And I write a diary. I log every movie I watch on Letterboxd. And this past month, I have taken up the exercise of actually writing little diary entries about each movie that I watch. Not necessarily reviews, but just thoughts about where I was and what I was doing when I watched the movie. Because I just want to be more mindful when I'm watching films instead of just consuming more and more and more and more. I also have a blog post linked in here of my top 10 Criterion films. It's a post that I wrote a while back. So if you're a physical media collector and you want to know some really cool Criterion films to pick up the next time they go on sale, I've got a list of 10 that I really, really enjoy. You can check those out. Until next time, I've been Jay, Out of Depth. Safe travels, everybody.